Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark. We're in Judges. We're starting in chapter 16 this lesson. This is our last chapter in the book of Judges. But before we begin, Jeremiah 15:16, Thy words were found, and I did eat them, and thy word was unto me the joy and the rejoicing of my heart. Now, as we begin here in chapter 16, the name Samson means sun or sunny or bright. Now, Samson really was a ray of sunshine to the children of Israel for about 20 years of judging Israel. But as his 20 years now is coming to a close, the sun of his life sets. And it sets behind dark clouds. How much time passed between Samson's defeat of the Philistines in last chapter and what takes place in chapter 16 is not known. Regardless of whether it was several months or several years is not known, but what we see in chapter 16 is that his passions and his weaknesses are still active, and they have never been dealt with. And this will bring about a shameful end of his life. Although Samson did kill more at his death than during his life, yet this is kind of overshadowed by how it all came about in the first place. And as we study this part of Samson's life, you will see that he was still full of selfishness right up to the time he died. Samson doesn't change much. He grows older, a little older, but his heart is still selfish and proud. Now, we're going to only be doing verses 1 through 3 in this lesson. So let's read chapter 16, verse 1. Let's read verse 1, and it says, Then went Samson to Gaza, and saw there a harlot, and he went in unto her, and it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come here. And they compassed him about, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city. And they were quiet all that night, saying, Well, in the morning, when it's day, we will kill him. And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city, and the two posts, and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of an hill that is before Hebron. Now, Samson travels about 40 miles southwest of Zorah, which is his hometown, to a place called Gaza. That's a city. Now, Gaza is one of the 5 major cities of the Philistines. It is located on the Mediterranean Sea. It is not known why Samson went there in the first place. He probably was not going there to find a prostitute, or being prostitutes were probably all in the major cities of the Philistines anyways, which were closer to him. So his business there wasn't to go and find a prostitute. It was probably something else. And while he was there doing whatever he was doing, then he comes upon this woman. But when he gets to Gaza, he sees a harlot, and he goes right back to his serving his passions and his lusts. Sometimes it only takes a look to redirect our minds to satisfy our sinful desires. Sometimes it is something that we hear or something that we feel. As sinful humans, we are so susceptible to our senses to remind or to bring about sinful thoughts. We have to be careful. We have to be careful with our eyes and our ears. In Psalm chapter 25 and verse 15, it says, "My eyes are ever toward the Lord." In Psalm 16 verse 8, it says, "I have set the Lord always before me." In Mark chapter 4 verse 24, it says, Jesus said, "Take heed what you hear." And in Luke chapter 8 and verse 18, Jesus said, "Take heed how you hear." You know, bring the eyes and ears. Being the eyes and ears are the most prominent senses that sin has the opportunity to enter. We must be very careful what we look at and what we choose to listen to. And we have to be careful. Because you could be working and concentrating on something, and then all of a sudden, it only takes a look. It only takes hearing something on the radio or on the TV. You hear something. You're doing something and the TV's going and you hear something. And it can bring sensual pleasure. It can bring anger, hatred. It can bring jealousy, envy. Something you hear on your phone. Now, something you see on the internet. The eyes and the ears are the two most prominent senses that we have that can be used to distract us from the things of God and immediately bring back memories of sin or of sinful pleasure. We have to be careful. Judges chapter 16 is not concerned with the details of Samson's business, but only explaining his downfall and how we need to beware that we are led away that we are not led away in the same way. So chapter 16 is basically it's a warning from God to us. Don't do what Samson did. Learn from chapter 16 on how to stay away from sinful pleasures, sinful enticements to our eyes and our ears. Now, in verses 2 and 3 of chapter 16, the Gazites got word that Samson was in town. So they close all the gates and they basically lock Samson in. And they decide, well, we'll kill him in the morning. But Samson wakes up at midnight. Now, was the harlot aware of the plan to kill Samson? Or did she help betray him? One way or another, he wakes up at midnight. Is it possible that Samson had no idea of the Philistines' plan and just woke up and decided to leave? Again, no details are given as to why he wakes up at 12 o'clock, say midnight, and wants to leave and go somewhere else. You know, like Samson, when we satisfy our sinful fleshly lusts from the darkness of this world, we need to know that we are surrounded by the enemy, and the enemy wants nothing less than to kill us, either physically or spiritually. Like Samson, he goes to Gaza, and now it's nighttime, and the enemy is surrounding him. He's there, he gets involved in a sinful activity, and it's dark. That's what happens with us. We get involved in sinful activities. You know what happens? It becomes dark, spiritually dark in our life. And the enemy surrounds us. As soon as we start getting involved in sinful things, you know what? We're leaving ourselves open to be surrounded by the enemy. When we engage in sin, the enemy is then allowed to surround us, to condemn us, and to bring guilt and shame and disgrace, and if allowed to bring about our physical death, or at least to destroy our fellowship with God. Listen, this is why Samson's life is a testimony. What? Don't play with sin. Don't play with it. Don't entertain it. Don't think you have control over it. The enemy's going to surround you. Samson goes to leave Gaza and sees that the gate is closed. So he picks up basically everything that pertains to the gate, and he carries it to a hill near Hebron. The city Hebron was about 40 miles away from Gaza. But it is not known if he actually carried all that stuff all the way to the city of Hebron, or if he carried it to a hill that was some miles away from Hebron that was overlooking the city of Hebron. Again, we don't know if he carried it the whole 40 miles or if he carried it, a few miles away to a hill overlooking Hebron. It's not sure what happened here. Now, several commentators, they see verses 2 and 3 as a type of Jesus' resurrection. Samson, as a type of Christ, was surrounded like he was in a tomb and being watched by soldiers, and broke the bars of death and the gates of hell, and left with victory over the enemy, Satan. I mean, some commentators are bringing this as a type of that. Now, the typology, to me, the typology somewhat fits. But I don't think that I would use this as a type of Christ, mainly because of what happened in verse 1. He goes to Gaza and he finds a harlot. Yeah, I mean I can understand why commentators want to make this as a type of Christ getting victory over Satan's kingdom and storming the gates of hell and that kind of thing. But I wouldn't go that far, mainly because of what he did in verse 1. We're going to continue our study in verse 4 with Samson and Delilah next lesson. But until then, walk with the Lord. I know he walks with you.